Public affairs broadcasting from Rockingham County Radio. On the air and on demand. RCR24.com.
Hi everyone, and welcome to At Home with ADTS, a monthly show about the programs and supports offered by Aging, Disability, and Transit Services of Rockingham County, as well as discussing topics that may be of interest to the senior community. I'm the Executive Director, Kathy Powers, and joining me today, as always, is my co-host Ashley Cooper, who is our Director of Adult Day Services, who works out of the Leaf Center here in Reidsville. ADTS has been in operation in Rockingham County since 1973. Formerly known as the Council on Aging, our goal is to assist and link senior adults, people with disabilities, and their families with support, information, and opportunities that enhance their quality of life, as well as working to meet the local transportation needs for Rockingham County residents. As always, we like to start our show by thanking the local businesses that have supported ADTS over the past year through our Community Partners program. As state and federal funding remains stagnant or often even decreases, these local businesses are helping us to expand the need of our ever-growing needs in our community. Thank you to Pelham Transportation, Carolina Apothecary, Wells Fargo, the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, the Reidsville Area Foundation, Home Trust Bank, CJ Medical, Rockingham County Arts Council, Sparks Oil, the Church of the Epiphany, Piedmont Natural Gas, Eden Rotary, BB&T, Cone Health, Wilkerson Funeral Home, Woodmont United Methodist Church, and Plaza Mini Storage. We thank all of you for your continued support. We also want to give a special thank you to the United Way of Rockingham County for their longtime and generous support of our Meals on Wheels program. United Way of Rockingham County brings together local people to help raise local dollars to meet local needs, and we thank everyone who contributes to the campaign. Now I'm going to turn the program over to Ashley, who's going to give us an announcement and introduce us to today's guest.
Thank you very much, Kathy. I appreciate that. Before I introduce our guest here, I wanted to make an announcement that starting on the third Monday of every month from 1:30 to 3, the Leaf Center is collaborating with Cone Rehab Center to provide a Mind Over Matter support group for individuals who have had a stroke or some type of brain injury, for them to have an opportunity to come together with people who have had similar experiences, to find some support and understanding about what they're going through. We're also going to be offering at that same time a support group for their caregivers. So in one space will be the individuals who has experienced the stroke or brain trauma, and then the other space will be the caregivers. So it'll be a unique opportunity for them to both be able to sit down at the same time and build some friendship and kinship with people who are going through similar issues. And again, that's on Monday from the third Mondays, from 1:30 to 3 at the Leaf Center. And our address is 104 North Washington Avenue and in Reidsville. And that number is 336-347-2328. That's 347-2328. So on to our guest. Ms. Lynn Parks with Therapeutic Alternatives. Lynn is part of the Geriatric Adult Mental Health Specialty Team, or GAST team, that's serving Rockingham County. Welcome, Lynn.
Thank you.
Sure. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Currently, I work with the GAST team. GAST is an acronym for, as you said, for Geriatric Adult Specialty Team. We're part of Therapeutic Alternatives Incorporated. The company's been in existence since 1958 and provides services to individuals with developmental disabilities, mental health, and substance abuse issues.
Wonderful. And what is your background?
My background is mental health and criminal justice primarily.
All right. Before we started, you mentioned that you were working in a nursing homes environment.
I was working as executive director of an assisted living facility for the sister company of Therapeutic Alternatives, which is Victorian Senior Care.
Oh, great. Wonderful. Where is that located?
They have 15 facilities across the state of North Carolina. I was in the Asheboro facility and in the Star, North Carolina facility.
Wonderful. Well, that's good to
so
know.
you had to leave Asheboro. At least you get to come to Rockingham County and be able to think of it all.
Yes, big changes. So before we get started, can you tell us a little bit more about what GAST is trying to accomplish in Rockingham County? We had your coworker Tammy Curry here last month, but just to remind folks.
Okay. GAST works through contracts with MCOs, which is managed care organizations. Therapeutic Alternatives GAST teams provide services in 45 counties in North Carolina. The team I'm on provides services in Rockingham, Alamance, and Caswell counties. And in the past, we provided trainings primarily to facility staff. While we're still doing that, we're moving forward and trying to conduct more education and trainings to community-based organizations, and hope to provide more education in Rockingham County as to how these organizations can best support seniors with mental health and dementia-related issues.
Thank you very much.
Tammy came in and talked to our leadership team last month, and we're really excited. We have over 300 staff working across various departments out in the community, and everyone had lots of great ideas as to how your program could benefit our staff.
Yes, definitely. I think it's going to be a good fit. And so, with our experience, hopefully we'll be able to take that out and share that also with other members of the community. So as you know, this month, June, is the month of dementia and Alzheimer's disease. And so we thought we would take some time this show and talk about age-associated memory impairment, and then do I really need to be concerned? Is this dementia? Those sort of things. Okay? So, I think a lot of times people forget that their brain is an organ. And I had to remind myself when I was researching for the show. And just like with any organs, as you get older, they seem to decrease in their capabilities. And so I hear a lot of times, even at our center, but I hear my mom say it all the time. It must be an age you get when you start saying, I can't find my keys. I don't remember that lady's name at church. Those sort of things. I must be getting dementia. And I'm always there as a gerontologist to say, that's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily true, but things do happen. Like your brain does change as you get older. Can you kind of tell us what are some of those age-associated changes that do occur?
Okay, well, I'm in trouble if losing keys and forgetting names is a sign of dementia.
Right, I think most of us are.
But some of the early changes that we might look for is memory loss that impacts daily living, problems with planning and organization. The person may start to isolate more and become less involved with social or family type activities. They might start losing things more often and then have difficulty retracing their steps to find that item. Along with memory, judgment may become impaired as well. And in conversation, losing words might become more common.
Right. So when you say losing words, so do they then put in like some weird word, or what exactly does that mean? Losing
Maybe
words?
Rather than putting in a weird word, maybe mom is talking to you about going to church on Sunday. Maybe she's forgotten the word church. You know, Ashley, that place that we go, the place where they sing and the man talks about God. And she's able in the beginning to give you enough clues so that you can guess that she's talking about church. But as the disease progresses, she may not be able to pull those clues.
Okay, that's a really good example. You also mentioned about daily living. So how might it impact your daily living?
Well, as dementia progresses, we might have some safety concerns as far as maybe cooking, leaving that stove on rather than turning it off. Maybe throw the dish towel on the stove. We could have a fire hazard. It becomes harder to organize, to clean. We need to be mindful of making sure that foods are fresh and safe to eat. We need to make sure that that person's living quarters are safe. There are no trip hazards, that type of thing.
Okay, most definitely. I know, actually, staff and I were talking this morning that she knew that she needed to be concerned about her grandmother because her son had spent the night, and he got up in the middle of the night because the alarms were going off because she put on some pork and beans and just gone back to bed. And they were like, oh, and for a lot of folks, we see them so rarely that they can mask some of those changes, and it's not until they, spend some time with them, like a weekend or several weeks or something like that, they start to kind of go, that seems to be an issue.
It seems like we get an influx of calls around the Christmas holiday. Very often after family members have come home and spent a significant amount of time with their loved ones, and it's almost as if people can go on autopilot and just have those casual conversations about the weather and how are you doing today, and mask it pretty well. But when you start to have in-depth conversations and they start to see those changes, like you can't identify the word church, that people really seem to see something's going on here. And we do get a lot of calls looking for support because, of course, the Leaf Center is one of our programs that supports a lot of individuals with dementia, but we also have programs like Meals on Wheels. And it seems like one of the first things that's impacted is that cooking ability and just the safety concerns. And so we get a lot of calls from people who are experiencing dementia and their family is concerned about them continuing to cook.
Yes, absolutely. So some of those changes that happen can happen for various reasons. What are some of those causes that might cause some of the natural brain changes or something we might be a little bit more concerned about?
Well, with the natural brain changes, dementia and Alzheimer's is not a normal part of aging. We know this. The brain actually shrinks as we get older. The nerve communication is decreased. Blood flow is decreased within the brain. Inflammation can increase. That impacts learning and more complex mental tasks. I may have gotten off track.
That's okay. I know a lot of times that we have a nurse at our center. So she's constantly doing what we call med reconciliation, where she's looking at the list of medications that they're taking, and sometimes they counteract, or is that the right word? They counteract with each other. That can cause what we may go, maybe we need to be concerned, but really it's just like a medication or something like that. Is that something normal? Is like, over-the-counter medications, those sort of things?
Absolutely, over-the-counter medications as well as prescription medications, and even herbal vitamins and supplements can interact with your prescribed medications. So it's always good to have your doctor or pharmacist look at every medication you're taking to make sure that there's no interaction, especially if you see multiple doctors for different reasons.
Yes, which we all do nowadays.
Right. Well, and it seems that sometimes there's an underlying physical condition that can present itself almost like a cognitive condition. Urinary tract infections, for example.
So, Lynn, what might cause some age-associated brain changes?
Medications,
Okay.
whether that be prescribed medications, over-the-counter, or even supplements like vitamins or herbal supplements can all interact with each other. It's a good idea for everybody to take their medications to all of their doctor visits, especially when they have more than one doctor for different conditions, so that everybody's on the same page and knows exactly what's being taken. Stress, anxiety, overconsumption of alcoholic beverages can all contribute to those age-related memory impairments.
It's a good point about taking all of your medications, especially to all your different doctors. But you also mentioned vitamins. I know when I used to do some in-home care, I think half the table was more vitamins than it was actually the prescribed medication. So, I think they think, well, if it's natural, then it's okay. But sometimes, it doesn't necessarily help. So. And I also know that when I'm stressed, I can't remember anything. I'm like, that lady at church. What's her name again?
Well, I think the most important thing you've said, Lynn, is that forgetfulness and some of the small changes that everyone experiences are things that everyone experiences, and that forgetfulness is not necessarily something that needs to be concerning to you. Maybe you need to make some changes in your life to accommodate and put your keys in one specific place, but that's not necessarily something that you should be concerned that this is dementia. Is there something that someone can do just to kind of deal with those normal age-related changes in their memory. Any tips or trades that they can make in order to make those accommodations?
Okay, keeping to a daily routine really helps. Keeping a calendar or day planner, and I know that for myself, if it's not written in the calendar, it probably isn't going to be done.
Multiple calendars, usually.
Right. If your loved one is in more advanced stages of dementia, then of course provide a safe environment for them. The brain is a muscle, and just like any muscle, the more exercise we give the brain, the more effectively it's going to work. So challenge your brain. Do things like reading, crossword puzzles, board games, word games, playing chess, anything that keeps that brain working to keep it exercising and keep it active is good. Sensory stimulation is good. If you can involve as many of the senses as possible and look at something beautiful, listen to some relaxing music, maybe some scented oils or candles so you've got a nice pleasant aroma going on. And if you've got a blanket that you really love that's really soft and fuzzy and you want to snuggle up in that while you're listening to the music and smelling the aromas, all of these things help with the brain functioning.
Great. I know I used to be able to remember a list of names. That was like my party trick. I can remember everybody's names. And now I'm lucky if I hold on to it for 3 seconds. It's actually now a joke at work. And I was like, oh, somebody's coming to visit. And I'll tell a name. They'll go, okay, well, I'll introduce myself. And we'll really figure if that's out. So now what I do is to help myself. Like you mentioned, like exercising that muscle is I do a lot of word associations with names to kind of help me, and help my team remember people's names. So I always joke and say that's the reason why we have name tags at work now to help everybody remember their names. Absolutely. Also, I was reading something about how important sleep is and like a good night's sleep. Have you found that to be true as well?
Yes, the more sleep you can get, and I'm not saying sleep all the time, but if you can keep to that routine, if you have a normal bedtime and a normal wake time, and can try to de-stress before bedtime so that you can get that good night's sleep, that definitely helps.
Absolutely. Excuse me. I would say also about sleeping, I recently read an article. Now, this isn't necessarily with age associated, but I would think that it would go, since it's pertaining to people with dementia, that they've noticed that once they stop sleeping on a regular basis or for a continuous amount of time, that they start to see the rapid de-escalation in their abilities. And so I always think about that when if I'm struggling throughout the day, I go, did I really sleep very well? But it just shows you how important sleep really is to keep your mind active and engaged. But it also helps. They were saying that it helps clean out your system. That when you sleep, your brain flushes itself and recharges itself, and that's why it's really important that they sleep. Well, and everybody should sleep. So I always think that's really interesting. I always tell that's the first question I ask participants or caregivers when I see them starting to decline. Their loved one's starting to decline is, how are they sleeping at night? And usually they say, well, they're kind of up and down all night long. I'm like, okay, well, we need to kind of address that. So absolutely.
Lynn, one of the things that you talked about was the difference between just normal decline in age, in brain function with age, versus where there might be an issue. Some of the poor judgment and withdrawal from social activity, some of those things. So what does a person do if they've started to notice these things, or what does a caregiver do? Are there ways to approach that conversation from a caregiver perspective? Can you offer any insight into that?
Well, I would definitely say if you have concerns about yourself or your loved one or person that you're caring for, have a conversation with the person's healthcare provider, because there are evaluations that can be done just to kind of get to the root of what's going on. It could be something as simple as the medication or the sleep disturbances or depression, maybe not necessarily dementia.
Absolutely. As we've been talking, you notice that we've been using the word dementia instead of the word Alzheimer's. And that's something that I have to kind of keep reminding myself, because my understanding is that dementia is like a bigger umbrella over, and Alzheimer's is a particular disease under that, or an example or type of disease under dementia. Can you explain that a little bit, how that works?
Alzheimer's is used a lot because it is probably the most common form of dementia. Although there are more than 70 different types of dementia, Alzheimer's might just be the one that we see more frequently and hear about more frequently.
Okay, wow. Didn't know there was that many.
Well, and Ashley, I know that our experience has been that dementia and Alzheimer's, or any of the dementias, not only impacts the individual who has the disease, but it also impacts the caregivers.
Absolutely.
You work a lot with family caregivers. Are there any tips or tricks that you can recommend for having those conversations and working with someone who may be suffering from dementia?
Sure. So the first thing is acceptance, I would say, for our caregivers, is them accepting that that's actually the diagnosis, or if they don't feel that's the diagnosis, like Lynn mentioned, going to the doctor, and they have tests that can help determine that. But reading up on it, there's a lot of resources. The Alzheimer's.org or ALZ.org is a great resource and tool, and they have a 1-800 number that you can call 24 hours a day for more information as well. But then also maybe trying to identify the safety concerns. As Lynn also mentioned, safety becomes a big issue. And, they're still driving, or they're wanting to have no one live with them or come in and help take care of them or manage their day-to-day supports, those sort of things. But also it's really important for caregivers to take care of themselves. This is definitely, I feel, like a disease that you can't manage by yourself. You can't go at it alone. You've got to have some support because it does eventually turn into a 24-hour job, and no one does well that way. And a lot of times we see caregivers go down just as quickly as the person they're caring for. So we offer actually a support group for caregivers that meets the second Monday of every month. It's been going around. It's been active for almost 10 years now. Wow. We inherited it, but so the group has a lot of knowledge, a lot of understanding. They've been through a lot, and so quite often I just sit back and kind of go, wow, I didn't think of that. That's a great idea, But, also just as a caregiver, giving yourself permission to take care of yourself, giving yourself permission to know that you're right. No one will ever be able to take care of your loved one as well as you do, but that you have a great gift of picking the right person who can support you. And so, I'm constantly reminding my caregivers, and it's so funny because when they finally get away, they come back and go, I feel so much better, and you can see that they're able and recharged to take care or continue to take care of their loved one. So do you find that's usually the case with caregivers as well?
Absolutely. If we get frustrated and run down, we're no good to our loved one. We can't give them the best service that they deserve. So I think it's always important to reach out to family members, friends, those community-based organizations. Cardinal Innovations can make referrals if needed. Their phone number is 1-800-939-5911. Ashley, is with the Aging, Disabilities, and Transit Services here in Reidsville. Very excellent service. Alzheimer's Association, the ALZ.org, or 1-800-272-3900. And if caregiver groups or home care agencies, community-based organizations are interested in scheduling trainings to receive more education, they can give me a call at 336-221-4357.
And I know that y'all are really looking to, the GAST team is looking into entering churches. And I think a lot of times I get a number of referrals from pastors who say they're really having a hard time. Do you mind going out and just talking to them? Or can I give a name, a number? I can give the caregiver. And excuse me, I know that your group is able to, or is wanting to come in and can come into churches and provide trainings. So, that's another great resource. I think a lot of times, if if you've got a group already together, you might as well use it instead of trying to just do one or two people here and there.
Well, and the churches are often the first line of defense.
That's a good point.
They know of people in the community that aren't linked in to any of the formal services that are out there, because very often the church family is the family that steps in and takes care of you. So they're going to be the ones who have the ability to recognize those changes and see what's going on and make those connections. So I applaud what you guys are doing, and I wish you the best of luck in the community. I think it's a very valuable service that we're looking forward to.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So one of the other things that you mentioned earlier, and when you were talking about caregivers, that struck me is I went back to what Lynn was saying about the changes in the brain, the physical changes in the brain. A lot of the caregivers that I've worked with in the past seem to think she just won't listen.
Yeah.
I've told her to stop cooking. I've told her not to do that, and she just argues with me, and she's so combative, and why won't she listen if she would just do X, Y, or Z? And we forget that there are changes going on in the brain, and we maybe wouldn't take that same perspective if they had a disease of the lungs or a disease of the heart. But when someone has a disease of the brain that impacts their behavior, their communication, everything that they do, it's easy to get really frustrated. And so it's very important to look for those support services and to understand what's going on, and that this is not a choice. This is a disease that's impacting their control center.
Absolutely. And there's a really great, I forgot the word, but trailblazer in working with dementia and caregivers specifically, Teepa Snow, who does a great job of explaining that if you know one person with dementia, or Alzheimer's, one person with dementia and Alzheimer's. And so a lot of times my caregivers go, well, my friend's dad is just so sweet and my mom cusses me out all the time. And so, I don't quite understand, why is that and what's happening? And so that's why I really recommend, and a lot of times they don't get that diagnosis until really late. And so they've been challenging. And I feel like if you're already asking those questions or making those statements, then that's more of a sign than anything else. Or if they keep asking me the same thing over and over again, why do they keep doing that? Or telling me the same story over and over again.
I do that, actually.
No. So, those are the times that you need to kind of start going, like you mentioned, to your healthcare provider. And then also just starting to ask for other support and whoever that might be, and see if they're also experiencing that from their dealing with their older or aging parent as well.
And we missed two announcements, Ashley.
We did.
So I want to go back and hit those really quick.
Okay.
First, I just want to mention that the Center for Active Retirement is hosting a spring spud bar to raise money to support the ongoing activities at our senior center that's located in Wentworth. The event will be on June 27th at the Rockingham Governmental Center cafeteria, and you get a baked potato with all the toppings and a salad with all the fixings and a drink for just $8. So tickets can be purchased in advance at ADTS, or you can call Cheryl Albrecht at 637-8428 or Katrina White at 342-8150. And we also want to mention that Cheryl is hosting an informational meeting about a diabetes self-management program on June 28th at 1 o'clock. And if there's enough interest in the community to have this program in place, Cheryl is going to start the self-management classes, which is an evidence-based training starting at the center in mid-July. So please contact Cheryl if you would like some more information. That number again is 637-8428. And it looks like that's all we have time for today. So we want to thank you for listening, and we hope that you found the information today beneficial. If you would like to talk to someone at GAST about the trainings that they offer, again, Lynn, that number is
336-221-4357.
Thank you. Or for more information about the programs and services offered through ADTS, you can visit our website at adtsrc.org or give us a call at 336-349-2343. We hope you can join us again next month when we will be talking about fraud, exploitation, and scams that are targeted towards the senior community. And we thank you again for joining us. Take care.